She didn't just sleep. She chose. She just chose to. Carefully, repeatedly, long before the affair began. She rehearsed it. She rehearsed it in her mind, a fantasy turned intentional, disguised as harmless curiosity. Marriage is a covenant, not a convenience. It's designed to stand through storms, but betrayals doesn't just crash through the front door. It's invited in, one small compromise at a time. She crossed emotional boundaries long before physical ones, justifying every step while wearing the mask of innocence. Her loyalty didn't break in a moment. It was negotiated over time. So why would a married woman who once vowed forever entertain a path that risks everything? Let's uncover the uncomfortable truth, the deliberate drift into infidelity, how it's premeditated and how excuses become armor, and how women who cheat may or may not know exactly what they're doing long before they get caught. One look and in a few minutes, we'll walk through how married women become easy prey for affair hunters, in quote, the bad boys, and what married women should know about themselves. Let's talk first about the disappearing woman. When responsibility replaced identity before marriage, she was captivating, a mystery, a woman with fire, a woman with fire in her eyes, driven by dreams, driven and fueled by ambition. She had a voice, an identity, and a vision for herself or her life. But slowly, almost without noticing, she begins to trade her name for titles. Titles like a wife, mother, or a caregiver. Each beautiful, yes, but when not rooted in a strong sense of self, they begin to replace who she is and not enhance it. In the early days of marriage, there was fire. There were long stares across the room. There were late night talks, and a sense of being deeply wanted. But over time, life gets loud. Passion takes a back seat to responsibility. The home becomes a checklist, and she begins to feel invisible in the very space she once called her sanctuary. But here is where choice comes in. Instead of fighting to rediscover herself, she begins to drift. Instead of seeking growth, she seeks escape. And when a man outside her marriage makes her feel seen, she doesn't just appreciate it, she craves it. But the truth is, she wanted to be noticed. She opened the door. And when the monotony of life becomes unbearable, that momentary attention becomes an invitation to step outside her vows. For some women, it's not even about being neglected. Their husbands are still present, still kind, still doing their best, but good no longer excites them. When finances get tight or illness steals a man's strength, instead of offering compassion, they silently start looking around, comparing, measuring, and judging. They tell themselves, I need someone stronger. I didn't sign up for all this struggle. I deserve better than this life. But what they really mean is, I don't want to do this with him. I want out, without really admitting that's what they're doing. They chase stability, beauty, excitement, and anything that doesn't look like the man who had grown weary building a life with them. And in doing so, A woman doesn't just cheat on her man, she cheats on the life she once prayed for. Secondly, we have the silent killer. It's easy to blame a man's coldness for a woman's wandering heart. Indifference may be a trigger, but it's never an excuse. Conflicts rarely ends a marriage, but silence does. And yes, a woman can survive arguments. She can survive unmet expectations and even heartbreak. But when she feels unseen, when her presence starts to feel like background noise in her own home, something inside begins to shift. She tells herself she just wants to feel noticed again. She wants to feel alive again. So when someone, anyone, like anyone at all, shows her attention, she doesn't just receive it, she soaks it in. The first reply to his flirty message, the choice to dress up for someone who isn't her husband, that first lunch, that's just a talk. Those are not random mistakes. They are deliberate acts. Married women often become the easiest targets because they stopped guarding their hearts and started justifying their openness. For some, the descent is even more calculated. As the years pass and her husband's appearance changes, perhaps his hair grays, his physique softens, or stress carves deeper lines into his face, then she starts to compare him to younger ones, more attractive men too. Instead of cherishing the years they've spent together, she chases the illusion of something better, disregarding the man who has stood by her side through it all. Yes, some men really are victims. There are good men out there. Next is the lies she tells herself. An old man once said, "You don't fall into sin. You walk there slowly, with your eyes wide open." The human heart is skilled with deception, especially when it wants what it wants. A woman who was once faithful doesn't wake up one day and decide to cross the line. It happens in stages. At first, she convinces herself it's innocent. He just listens better. I'm not doing anything wrong. I just need this escape. But every conversation she should have kept in her home, every emotion she shares with someone else, every comparison she makes between a man who barely knows her and the one who married her, that's a betrayal in process. And then comes the lies. If my husband paid more attention, I wouldn't be in this mess. I deserve to feel good. It's just harmless fun. He's not the man I married. Why should I keep carrying this alone? But what she's really saying is, I know it's wrong, but I want it anyway. Then comes the emotional affair. By then, she has gone too far. By the time she's keeping secrets and deleting messages, she has already left her marriage. She has left her marriage emotionally. Emotional intimacy is powerful. It's the real foundation of an affair, even before a single touch is exchanged. The most dangerous affairs aren't physical, they're emotional. When she starts giving her emotional energy to someone else, she's already detached. And the man in her bed, he becomes the outsider. She might go like, I've been faithful for years. What has it gotten me? He's weak, and I need someone stronger. I'm not cheating. I'm only saving myself. This isn't self-care, it's self-deception. The moment she decides to fall. The first time she smiled a little too long. The first time she answered that late night message with butterflies. She has decided. Cheating doesn't happen in the bedroom. It starts in the heart. The thrill, the danger, the secrecy. It all feels intoxicating. But what she's really doing is rewriting her identity. She's no longer the woman who builds. She becomes the woman who breaks. And eventually, her husband, the one who's weathered life by her side, becomes invisible. Not because he changed, but because she chose to see someone else more clearly. The great loss. At first, it feels like she's winning. The excitement comes and passion follows, the sparks. But she never stopped to count what she's losing, the trust she's never fully regained. The man who loved her at her worst, the respect she once had for herself. She doesn't just betray her husband, she betrays who she used to be. Because when the high wears off and the fantasy fades, reality knocks. And it won't be the man she cheated with, it will be the mirror. And in that reflection, she'll see a woman who traded her values for validation. Here is the solution. This is how you reclaim yourself and reclaim your marriage. Women, marriage isn't just about staying only when it's thrilling. It's about choosing even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. A woman doesn't protect her marriage by waiting for her husband to change. She protects it by guarding her own heart and confronting the cracks within her. If you feel unseen, speak. If you feel disconnected, fight for the bond. If you feel tempted, run. Not towards the fantasy, but back to the truth of what you vowed. Because every time a woman chooses to cheat, she's not just hurting her husband, she's wounding herself. But every time she chooses to stay, grow, communicate, and fight for her love, she becomes stronger, wiser, and more whole. And that kind of woman, she doesn't need validation. She becomes it.